Hello, everyone. I'm Antje. I'm an assertiveness coach with Assertive Voices, and I'm here today with Tony. And Tony's going to interview me about what I do, and I look forward to what we're going to talk about.
Thank you, Andy. And it's lovely being here again with you. And I appreciate letting me have a part of this on your journey as well. So today, I thought it'd be good. Assertiveness seems a big topic, but one thing that's very common that I find and I've seen online, and I know we've talked about it, is sometimes the problem that people find with assertiveness is how do they say no or yes? Either of the two of those things, when it just does not feel right to them. So are you okay doing that subject today?
Yes, of course.
Excellent. Okay, before we start that though, could you give us a more of a little bio, a more description of who exactly Antje is and what you do?
I help women in business with speaking up with more confidence and setting boundaries, maybe feeling more confident with going to networking events or in negotiations with potential clients or business partners. And I'm doing this because I have lived experience of challenges around communication, and I found ways to help myself, and now I want to help others. I have an academic background. I've got a PhD in information studies and degrees in business and information and media technology. I've done tutoring for German because I'm from Germany, but I live in Scotland now. And I've done translations. I love writing poetry. That's also something that can be used for working with my clients because it helps to express yourself and your thoughts and feelings. It doesn't need to be with talking, so it can be writing down things in a journal or just finding different ways that are right for you. And that's what I do.
Thank you. Yeah, well, just what I do. It's quite a lot what you do then. That's great. I loved about the creative writing you said because not only does it do that and it lets people express themselves, but while they're doing that, they're not having these negative thoughts because they're so busy concentrating on that that it keeps them away. So it's actually a good mental health thing as well. So
Yeah.
that brings us to today's topic because it's something that I know a lot of people say it does affect their mental health because they feel really sometimes guilty, they feel stuck or that, and it's about saying no or yes. So, what do you notice? There's a myth around niceness that you always have to be nice all the time, like people pleasing or boundary setting. What do you notice most about women who are conditioned to always say yes, and what does it cost them?
Yeah, I heard from many women that they need to be nice and do what people want and not so much do what they themselves want. And I think that's not really good for them and their mental health because they don't get their own needs met, and that makes them resentful and angry maybe. So, but I think that's just something that happened in society or in different cultures, how we see women and what we expect from them and how they grow up when they were children and what they were told by the people around them. So what women can do now is just look at more self-care and think about what they need and what their goals are and how they can achieve that and how they need to communicate that to other people so that it's respectful but still something that they want.
Great. And you mentioned earlier about one of the things you help was boundaries. And I mentioned there the myth of this niceness is you have to people please all the time. You have to make everybody else feel good. And you're right, you need the self-care. So how does boundary setting help them against people pleasing?
Yeah, for example, if they are in a job and somebody or the boss wants them to do more work and they are at full capacity already, so then it's a good idea to say that they can't do that. And that's one thing, and the other thing is how to say it in a way that
Mm.
it is assertive in that sense, so that they're not shrinking and also that they're not aggressive and offending someone. So you want to do it in a way that is right for everyone and doesn't blame anybody. So for example, if you want to say no to something, then you can use a simple framework. So first of all, you thank the person for an invitation, for example. Say, thank you for inviting me. I'm sorry I can't make it tomorrow. I have this and this on, but maybe we can do it next week. So first you acknowledge and appreciate that you've been asked, and then you say no clearly without much apology or without inventing reasons or something. You just say it short and concisely, and then maybe you will suggest something different or a win-win for resolving this, or you just wish the person good luck with whatever they do and you can't attend or something like that. So these three things would be good if you make your statement like that, and also do it as I statements, like talk about yourself, not about somebody else.
And that was good because you preempted the question I was going to ask is an example of it, which is great. So how do they reframe that in their own mind? So a lot of the words we hear are, it makes them feel icky, it makes them feel difficult, as if they're being selfish. So if you could do it in one sentence, what would they reframe their own mind is how to do that? So how would they make themselves feel better by the what did they say to themselves?
Yeah, I would say to yourself, I have the right to say no. So it's a thing of mindset, and there's also something called laws of assertiveness, I think it's called, that you know that you are allowed to say no and that you have certain rights, how you can stand up for yourself. I think I should make a post about that at some point, but
Mhm.
that's something very important, that you have these thoughts that this is allowed for you and you can do it, and you don't have to think you have to please the other person, or you want to avoid conflict or things like that. So that's not really helpful, because the most important thing is yourself, and that's what you need to think about, how you do this for you, and then do what is right for you and what you want.
Yep. And it leads on to the next part then, is because one of the things that some people say that they, when they do this and they're going to say no, is they feel guilty about saying no. Now, you mentioned one of your bits there when you acknowledge, and then a great thing is to give an alternative of when you can do something. But you also said about saying sorry. Sometimes that makes people feel like they're apologizing when they've not done anything wrong. So in some occasions, they need to be more clear, but not necessarily apologize. So can you share a moment when you've said no and it changed everything for you or a client so that he's became freer rather than that sort of caged feeling that you feel guilty about saying no?
Yeah, it's not needed to apologize, because there is nothing to apologize in most cases. I would say you can apologize when you said yes and then later you have to
Mm-hmm.
say no, and there's really something that you changed your mind. Maybe then apologize, but don't overdo it. Just a short apology is enough,
Mm-hmm.
because that's okay. But I would say an example is like, for example, I decided to do less networking in my business because I thought that takes all my time, and so I became more selective. What can I really do? What is helpful and what not so much? And that gives me more time now to do other things that are more important right now for me. So that's one example.
Excellent, because I was going to ask you again, prioritizing, which is again, you just used a perfect example of that, is to prioritize what needs to be done. So, how does someone do that? How do your clients do that so they don't feel guilty? How do they prioritize to look at the task? For example, they start in the morning and say they start at 9, they're there at 9:15, they're looking at the task they've got to do for that day, And then you mentioned earlier, someone comes up and says, I need this done urgently. How do they prioritize so that they don't feel that guilt about which ones to do first of all and what to push aside?
I think it's important to plan what you want to do, what you need to do. Also, we're looking at different aspects of life, like work, family, free time, or whatever else is important to you, and kind of find a balance, what to do when, and plan that all out. And then, for example, when the boss asks for overtime, then you can say, no, I have planned this with my family today, so I can't do that. Maybe next week or whenever I have time for that. So you're clear about what you want and what you need, and maybe also thinking about your values at some point and your goals. Also, not just short term, but long term, and then deciding what to do and which steps to take.
Great, but how do you prioritize your to-do list, for example? So you're in work, so you're ready to start at 9. Your boss says to you, I say you've got things on today, but I need you to finish this by 2 p.m. today.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at you're ready to look at the list you've got, and you've got 8 things already on to be done by the time you finish at 5. How do they prioritize what ones to do right away, what not to do, without feeling guilty about having to move certain things to get this done for the boss?
Yeah, I would say concentrate on one thing and get that done in an optimal way rather than taking on too many things and then doing not enough for everyone.
Mm.
So you see, one thing is better, one thing right is better than too much in a superficial way, and you have to communicate that. So as I said, explain that you have already these other tasks for the work and
Mm. So one way of looking at it could be to look at the time scales of each thing you've got then. So they
mm-hmm.
see what one's due when, and
Yeah,
then you say pick the one that's most important to get done first of all. Is that right?
yeah, or
Right, that sounds good. Yeah, I agree with that. Um, Emotional side of that, when you say you can't do something or you can't come into work on a certain day because of grief. This is one that comes up quite a bit is having to ask for time when you're going through something like grief. People find difficult to say, no, I can't take any more on or work on because they're trying to concentrate on what they can do, but that's also something they're trying to work through. How do they get you mentioned the word balance. How do they get the balance for something in a situation like that?
yeah, just be open and mention it to the person responsible. So just explain what's going on, and if you need time, then ask for it. If you want more money or whatever it is, just find that courage to ask for it. And also, if it's just feedback, for example, that's something you could ask for that could help you to improve in the future.
So I think what you said that an important part is for a lot of people, the issue that the reason they feel no is a problem is because they let it build up inside. You're
Mm-hmm.
right. So by opening up and speaking to people about it and let them know the situation should make it then easier for them to say no because the other person can understand their circumstances. Is that right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I like that. It's good as well. Doing great here. So the next one is what does a powerful yes look like? So we've talked about no, but what's a powerful yes look like? Especially if it's inconvenient or maybe misunderstood. But why are you suddenly saying yes if people are used to you saying no? So if they had to say it powerfully, first of all, what does a powerful yes mean to you? And how could they say that without coming across as out of character? That they're saying it because it's what they want to do.
Yeah, a yes is what you do when you really want to do it, I would say. So you should be enthusiastic and kind of show that you have the passion for it. And just say, yes, I do it. I'd love to do it, so something like that. And
Mhm.
what I notice is that some people with anxiety feel that they can't say yes outright. So they might want to play it down and maybe, or that sounds more like a no. So
Mhm.
that's something to consider. But then there's also always the opportunity to just buy yourself time by saying, I need to think about it. I get
Mhm.
back to you later. I look at my diary or things like that. And then you can have time to think about it. Do you really want it? Do I now say yes or no?
Yeah, I think something you mentioned that's really important is there's two types of yes we really get, a reactional yes and an intentional yes. Reaction, yes, yeah, as we say that, yes, even we've not thought through the circumstances, we're just scared to say no. The intentional, yes, you're right, is think about it first of all. Is it going to be right for you? Is it the right intention for you to do that? Can you actually take something on by saying yes? And yeah, you feel good, and that can be powerful to intentionally say yes because you know you're able to do it. You're not just taking on to support someone else or to help them. Excellent. But how does that affect then when you start saying yes like that and it becomes a powerful one? Your relationships maybe with your colleagues, your leadership, you've mentioned the boss a couple of times, or even just about your own visibility in the work.
How do you mean that?
Um, if you're saying yes and you're intentional, you're much more confident in the yes you're now saying. You're not just people pleasing by saying it for the sake of it. So you're saying yes because you've been selective of what you can do. How does that have a ripple effect on your relationship with colleagues and with your superiors as well?
Yeah, I think people notice that you really mean it when you show it in your voice, in your tone of voice, your body language, or subtle clues that people might notice. But on the other hand, if you just say yes and don't mean it, that may also be seen or come through somehow. So that's not really the right thing to do. But obviously, we
So,
talked about the reasons why people might do it.
mhm. So it can be in their tonality, their body language, their facial expressions. If they really, and it's an intentional yes, that would show up more. And you mentioned earlier, more confidently that they would show up to do that. Um, and that obviously then can be good for your superiors looking at because they feel you're more confident in your position. It's good with your colleagues because I think they start to understand you a bit better and realize as well they can't just dump all the work onto you because it's not going to happen anymore. So you're right. I think you become more visible, which is something I think a lot of people who say no worry about is becoming visible because they're always worried then they'll get shut down or something. But that makes you visible for the right reasons. I call that giving yourself permission to do that. Is there something that you use like that with your clients? As I've said to a client, is you need to give yourself permission to say yes because you want to do it, not because someone else wants to. How do you reframe that for your clients?
Yeah, I think when people really say what they want, they get seen as more assertive because, as I said, people notice that they can trust this person.
Mhm.
So that's one thing. And for me, it's really just, I think it helps when you express yourself the way you want and to stand up for yourself and make your boundaries clear and say no when you want to, say yes when you want to, and just don't think too much about what others think. And because you
Mhm.
are the most important person for yourself, it's only you, and it's not selfish, it's just caring for yourself. And as I said, it also helps others.
And it also gets rid of the old patterns, doesn't it? Because you start saying yes to yourself rather than all that I have to say no. The old patterns, the old habits that you've got to do that start to die away. The more you confidently say yes to yourself, because you quieten that inner critic that we all have. All the one always tells us we can't do this or you're not good enough. They start to disappear. But one thing that a lot of people I know say is that sometimes they get stuck in what they call the nice girl, the nice woman trap. Is we mentioned at the beginning about people pleasing. It's not just about people pleasing. It's you've mentioned perfectly through it. They don't have the right boundaries. They don't have the right body language. They don't have the right facial expressions. So how do they overcome things like that? Start with how do they stop being seen as just the nice girl in the office, nice woman in the office? If it's in networking, it's the same. somebody will always come up and always be smiling, happy, and yes about everything. How can they take the first step to stop that happening?
The first step, I would say, is mindset. Then another step is
Mhm.
like trying to calm yourself down before doing it. And then, most importantly, just doing it, doing something, taking a first small step and do it. Or in your case, what you mentioned, maybe just going there in the first place rather than deciding I won't go. And then maybe a small task, what can I do there that is assertive, or something, maybe thinking about I want to speak to this person and thinking about what could I say as a step or something like that, whatever it is for that individual, and then just practicing it, maybe also using role play before that with in a safe environment, or just playing it through in your mind. What are you gonna do? And then doing it.
Yeah, and that's great because it builds, I said, get rid of the old habits, builds new habits and routines. So if you got something that if your client was saying, right, I'm going to go to networking tomorrow, but I'm really worried about it. You mentioned a good thing there. They need to calm themselves, calm their mind before they go on, so they've got the right mindset when they go on. So two things with that is, what kind of technique could they use to calm themselves before they go in? And what is it they need to change in their mindset once they get there?
For example, taking a deep breath or a few deep breaths before entering could help to calm down the body, or maybe just thinking I can do this, right? Because as you said, all this people pleasing and things is thinking the wrong things. So try to think something different, like this is good for me. I'm gonna do this. This doesn't
And
hurt anyone.
and how do they prepare themselves doing it? So you say take a few deep breaths, which is great because that can calm. Then they're going to think, I can do this. So is there something they can do with themselves to put both of them together? So a technique or something they can use that can help them with that. So they know when they step in to that room or in the office, or you said it could be a negotiation, whatever it is, that they feel that confidence so it shows up in their body language and their facial expressions.
Yeah, they could do power poses
Excellent.
to
Yeah.
get it, because that helps to kind of power up their body with the right, what's it called?
Right. So having the right mindset, having the right physiology, and you go on. So when you say a power pose, what does that mean? How would give an example of someone how they could do a power pose? What would it be like?
Yeah, for example, something like what Superman does, with the arms up, or so I think it
Oh, you
helps.
mean when he opens up the shirt?
Yeah, yeah, I think
Yeah.
it
Hmm.
helps to get the right hormones in the body to feel better, things like that. Or they could just do journaling, affirmations, or as a normal thing for a couple of weeks or months, just to prepare the mind and to make that natural, that what they think, or like writing 3 things down that they're grateful for every day when they go to bed, or something like that, because that really helps with finding positive thoughts.
And I think the power pose is a great one. I really like the idea of that. I think problems sometimes comes for a woman when you talk to them saying, like Superman, for example, is male. So not always having these superhero things, power poses
Yeah,
that
yeah,
suit them for a woman thing.
call
Is
it
there
Wonder
something?
Woman or Supergirl, or you've got
Yeah.
female superheroes too.
Um, I don't know much about Supergirl, so I can't answer that one. I don't know how does Supergirl do a power pose? I wouldn't know that. Wonder Woman, yeah. But what I was more thinking of is, do you have any ideas you could give your clients of someone they could go and look at who exudes that feeling, that look, the looks, their body language, the tonality that they want to have? Could they model themselves, for example, on I don't know, a celebrity or somebody else in business or someone they know. Does that ever work for people?
Yeah, if they have a favorite actor or someone, then they think who's very assertive or in some way the way they want to be, then they can model themselves
Mhm.
around this and kind of try to be the same, or just imagine that they step into that confident self, and then
Mhm.
that helps too.
Good. And I think, like the affirmation that you said, you could use it to build your own mantra. So you mentioned there, I can do this. It feels that complicated thing. A mantra is just a little statement you can say over and over, but it personally for you. So some you do. But you can also hear people talking about anchoring, and you can anchor the courage to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So how does someone go about doing that? So they're ready to go to their first network event. You've got your client, you've talked to them, yeah. They've been journaling for a couple of weeks, so they know they've got the confidence there. It's just that last step taking them to go in. Is there something they can do to anchor that feeling of confidence before they go in?
Yeah, they could use a thing like a necklace or something that helps them to feel confident. That's one thing. Or they could use specific techniques in NLP, like you said, anchoring, where they kind of do something beforehand, like they imagine a situation when they felt confident in that
Mhm.
case, and then they put that to a specific place, like a finger on the hand that they touch then, and they have anchored that feeling beforehand, and when they touch that then before they do the talk or whatever, then it can help them to experience that feeling again in that moment. So that's something that they can do, for example.
So you mentioned the necklace, would that be the same? They can anchor that feeling to the necklace, so when they
Yeah,
touch that,
yeah, yeah.
it brings it back. Very good. Yeah, I like that because that's tangible that people can imagine actually doing, and it's not something that people would think out of place if you're touching something like that. So you also mentioned throughout this is boundaries, um, even setting small boundaries for themselves to start with. How do people introduce boundaries? Your clients do it. How do they introduce boundaries without making themselves as if they're being standoffish? So how can they get the right balance? I think you used the word earlier, balance
Mm-hmm.
of getting the boundaries right, but still being enough open enough to actually mix with the people.
Yeah, you have to bring across the message that this is not too much, and this is just your right to have that boundary now, like everybody has. So maybe talk about it openly and be clear yourself internally what you want, and then tell it to others in a polite way and a concise way, just assertively. So, as I said, with I statements and clearly mentioning this is the thing, and also stick to it, like not opening the opportunity that this is negotiable or something. It's just always, this is my boundary, and so that people accept it and respect it.
Can you have smaller boundaries that you don't have to explain to people, but that you know that you've got internally that you won't cross? So they help you to stay grounded, they help you to stay safe in your own environment.
Mm-hmm.
Can they set little boundaries on their own, but no one else needs to know? It's just that them they need to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that has also a lot to do with your values and what is important to you,
Hmm.
that you be clear about that for yourself. Like, so that's self-awareness work and thinking about yourself and your goals, and then you automatically stick to that when you have relationships with people or in your day-to-day life.
And we all talked about all through this then about how by saying no can make you more intentional, or yes, it can make you freer, it liberates you. So, what's one unpopular decision that you've ever made, but it made you more free?
Yeah, I think telling someone that you won't attend when they invite you, for example, can be a bit awkward, especially if you don't want to be someone who hurts them. You know how important it is for them. And
But how did that make you more free by saying no to them when you've already agreed to go that you couldn't make it? How did that make you feel more free in yourself?
yeah, I think I need to decide what I want to do, and sometimes I have um, appointments that clash, and I just need to unfortunately say I can't make that, or just life happens.
Mm. So really looking at it, it's more than just a permission. It's like a declaration that I have to look after myself first and then
Mm-hmm.
we'll look at everybody else.
Yeah,
Excellent. I like
yeah.
that. So more instead of just being permission, it's a declaration that they have to do that. Okay. So that's great. And thank you for answering the question. It's great me putting the spot on having to do that, but it lets us get a better understanding of who you are and what you do. But what would you say then is to finish up if you've got one piece of advice, an empowering piece of advice for potential clients out there, for you? What's one thing that they could do today themselves to start making themselves more assertive?
I would say allow yourself to say no and set those boundaries.
So just by starting to do that and saying no yourself, that can already start helping me to move forward. Then that would lead to the perfect thing then. What if they say, I understand you're saying to do that, but I can't do that on my own. So they need help.
Mm-hmm.
What ways can they get in touch with you?
I'm on social media, on Facebook, Instagram,
Mhm.
and LinkedIn. My website is assertivevoices.com. Email, you can write me an email, you can come on a free discovery call.
And your QR code that you've got on here, does that take them to your website?
And yeah, that's my new coaching program you can take a
Excellent.
look at.
Mhm.
And
And what's the coaching program about?
it's about helping women to be more assertive and, like we said, to set boundaries and say no or whatever they want to work through.
Mm. And how long is it, the course itself?
It's 6 weeks
So it's
of
not too long, great. Mm.
it's one-to-one coaching. It's also practical interactive exercises, and there's a workbook included, and the rest is really flexible, based on the person's individual challenges.
Excellent. So it's bespoke for them. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what they're actually facing. That's
Yeah.
brilliant. There's one other thing I know about that you also have, you've not mentioned then. You have a Facebook group where
Yeah.
people can go and find out a bit more about you
Yeah.
and mix with other people similar. I think, is it Assertiveness Academy?
Yes. Yes. So people
And can you
can
tell us a
join
bit
that
more
one.
about that?
Yeah, it's for women in business with these challenges, and they can join.
Okay. And they just get onto Facebook and look for Assertiveness Academy and they'll find
Mm.
it from there.
Yeah, well, I'll put the link in this video.
Excellent. That'd be really great. Saves them hunting for it. They can just go straight to it. So it just leaves me to say, is there anything else that you would like to say before we finish up?
Yeah, thank you for coming.